Greetings and welcome to the ASTROLABE. It is 2 days before Christmas and my mom's birthday. Shout out to my mom. Happy birthday to her. Let's get some oinks in the chat in honor of Grandma Kingpilled. I don't know if she... I don't think she would be a big fan of being called Grandma Kingpilled. But she doesn't watch the show, so... yes, please get some oinks in the chat there. I'm still getting myself back into full health. I've got the lingering cough, and the brain fog has been a son of a bitch this time around. This was a weird sickness. Sinuses stayed completely cleared, so my head has it's not like I don't have mucus head. I don't have sick head, but it's been fucking with my head. I've been sitting there contemplating my own mortality, and it's been almost like a psychedelic trip, kind of. Whatever it is that got into me has had me just spacing out, having lots of very weird thoughts, laying there. Maybe it's just the sleep deprivation, or like the sleep. It's not deprivation, because I've managed to get good sleep, but it's been only after like laying there for hours and tossing and turning, and then it's really restless and weird. So I'm like very slowly losing my mind over here. But it is nice that weather outside is great. It's almost Christmas, my favorite time of the year. I love the holiday season. It'd be nice, a little bit of snow, but probably not here. It's probably better not having snow here, because things would go haywire. Shout out to Well Emmanuel. Thank you, sir. 50, let's see, what are these, taco bucks? 50 taco bucks. He says, Merry Christmas. One of the OGs has been here for a very long time. What was I saying? Snow. Yeah, probably best not to have any snow down around these parts, just because of the way that it affects Texans. Texans kind of go a little loony with the snow. It's funny, people from Washington, I don't like Washingtonian. I don't like saying that. People from Washington, they sort of do the same thing. Texans and Washington residents both react similarly to the snow, even though people from Washington see a whole lot more of it. They still sort of freak out, and small amounts get people really, school starts being canceled and such things. Anyways, $50, 50 Eagle Bucks from me at random username. Good to see you, man. He says, Greenland or bust. Happy birthday to Grandma Kingpilled, some silly old-timey money. Yes, old-timey money indeed. Thank you, man. Appreciate the generosity. All right, got some good stuff here. Trump wants Greenland. Yeah, this story came up again. Getting more validation that I was right. I like to say that I was right, so I'm going to give myself the opportunity here to say that I was right again. I've got a whole bunch of dudes being dudes that just going to make you happy. Got some stuff to make you guys laugh, and then I've got some interesting background, or not background really, but just some comments from Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary, and then some Michael Saylor talk, some Bitcoin talk, and because things are really starting to cook on that front. And I think, and then a couple odds and ends, sciencey related things here toward the back end. So let us begin. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We got 42 watching and only 7 likes. Only 7. Come on, guys. Hit that like button. Swipe down. Go up. Poke it. Colin Ross says, it's amazing how fast people forget how to drive. Yes, indeed. Driving on ice or driving in slippery conditions is always very intuitive to me. Maybe it's from playing racing games growing up or something. But it was just always, just kind of naturally have a feel for the physics of it, the mechanics of it. But some people just absolutely do not. And that's what's more, when I go out driving when it's slippery outside, I'm not concerned about myself doing anything. I'm perfectly confident in my own driving. It's other people, like trying to make sure I have to figure out how to stay out of the way of other people, which adds an even greater level of difficulty to it. It's like you're playing a video game and you have to, if you're just driving by yourself, there's like the level, you have to go up the levels of difficulty till you can master driving by yourself. And then the next level of difficulty is, okay, now that you figured out how to take care of yourself on the slippery surfaces, let's introduce other drivers, and we're going to go up to the next category of difficulty levels. Anyways, speaking of speaking of driving, I'm fully nostalgia pilled, and I'm about to hit you guys straight in the gut. You aren't ready for this.
Like a rock, I was strong as I could be. Like a rock, nothing ever got to me.
Introducing the most powerful line of engines ever in a Chevy truck, Vortec.
Like a rock.
Chevy, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the.
That almost, when I was scrolling the other day, and I came across this one, I almost got emotional hearing it. Just instantly, I was like 12 years old, or 8 years old, or I don't know, 18 years old. I think even 18. It was at 18 years ago. Yeah, something like that. Man, this is like an entirely new, like different world. We do not live in this world anymore. This world was a defined point in time that came and went. But you know what? We can bring it back. Of course, we can't bring it back wholesale, but we can be inspired by it. We can let the nostalgia, I don't know, kind of linger and bubble up and motivate us. Nostalgia pilled. Straight Buster says, I was sick with a stomach bug a few weeks ago, spent most of the day sleeping and absolutely tripping balls at night. Yeah, this isn't just me. This has been happening to other people. I don't think it really happened to my wife or my sister at all. I don't know about Eastwood. Yeah, Eastwood kind of seems like he's tripping balls all the time. But it's been really weird. It's like I can identify some kind of weird foreign thing that's affecting my. I can sit back and kind of watch myself think sometimes, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on in there? It's not like just complete random nonsense that just starts clanging around, and then I kind of pull myself out of it, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then get during the day, and the sun comes up, and everything just kind of feels like normal, and I'm like, was I having fever dreams or something? It's been like, without having a fever, it's like having fever dreams. Very, very odd. And I'm like looking for orbs around me or something. Must be because I'm an empath. That's probably what it is. Okay, now I got a whole long line of dudes being dudes with some rank patriotism thrown in for good measure. Okay, Amy says Eastwood most definitely had fever dreams and has been dreaming more than usual, or at least remembering it more than usual. Okay, there's something going on. Something's happening. What is it? Is it in the water? Is it the chemicals in the water turning the frickin' frogs gay? Is it the drones? Are they spraying something? Are we being radiation poisoned? I mean, Texas and New Jersey aren't that far from each other. All right, anyways. Three Letterman tweeted this. This American patriot has to be a follower of mine. Here's a Europore. A Europore unfortunately ran into an American Uber driver, and he got a big old spoonful of American that he was not at all interested in having. This takes me back. This is a little bit of nostalgia here.
You think you're free because you are in America?
I am free, dude. We invented freedom.
No,
Have you ever heard of the French Revolution?
There are no rights in America.
Tell Toby Keith there are no rights.
In your ass, it's an American way.
Tell me this. How many Super Bowls has France won? That's what I thought, bro. 0. It's raining down on you. What? Brought to you. Brought courtesy of what? The red, white, and blue. Yeah, baby. Fuck Putin.
Putin is Russia. I'm from France.
Tell Toby Keith we don't have freedom. Here's a similar brand of character.
Introducing the Shitty Swifty. This is a drink for Swifties who want to be classy, but also want to get shit-faced. Surprise, motherfucker! Fuck that! Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Wall of Sound. We do not listen to that garbage. I tell you, I'm your laugh. Win some, lose some, it's all the same to me. We do not listen to politicized garbage. Instead, we base our values off of rock and fucking roll. Don't give me that goddamn bullshit. Come rock out on the Wall of Sound. Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades. Give me a fuck yeah if you want to join us on the Wall of Sound. And send this to your favorite Swifty, who is also a crazy son of a bitch. I know she agreed. Only gonna need is the Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades.
The European mind absolutely cannot comprehend this. I've seen a few of this guy's stuff come by lately. It looks like some of you guys know who he is. The Wall of Sound. I like his brand. Go support him. I don't know if he just has a TikTok or he's got his little cards. He's building himself up a little following, and I like it. I'm fully in support of it. Austin Allred tweeted this out. Every day the internet shows me something crazier than I previously thought possible. Those of you, my skiing brethren out there, you will fully appreciate just how. If you don't ski, you may not appreciate how incredibly insane this is. This dude is a absolute freak. And this is one of my favorite things about the internet, that it used to be the internet was kind of like this before we had, before the discourse arrived. You had discourse internet, but you really had to work to go find discourse internet. A lot of it was just this, and seeing people doing absolutely insane things that you could not possibly imagine a human being doing.
It's a light tippity tap. It really is, man. You can't kick it hard. We're getting some snow up in the Tetons. We're getting into the trees, into the bumps. I'm trying to bring that tippity tap to a ski line, if you dig me. So on this tree here, I got to line it up perfect. Hit this window through the branches, get underneath it. Light tippity tap. You know what I'm talking about. But seriously, I've been getting my tippity tap flow, dude. Taking what I learned last year and the year before and the year before, bringing it all into the moment, learning new stuff. Every day I go out there, dude. It's crazy, man. It's hard for me to describe to anyone what's happening. The video camera isn't getting it. Everyone watching, I feel like it's really easy to think I'm just going down a little hill. I am skiing down a mountain with different pitches, different wind resistances, velocities. It's crazy, man. And I've been doing it now for so long. My intuition is just guiding me, and I'm blowing my own damn mind. I'm blowing your guys' mind. Shit's wild. For real, dude. And you know, it's happening this way because a lot of skills are coming in all at once. You know, I've been practicing the rollerblade juggle. I'm always slacklining and highline juggling. I'm bike juggling, mountain bike juggling. I mean, all of these things have different skill sets of working with physics in the juggle that are all coming in at once, and I can feel them out there while I'm skiing, dude. Wow.
Just completely mesmerizing. Like, man, if there's a man out there that can just dedicate his time to mastering a skill like this is so good for the soul. I've been very computer bound lately, and it's making me I need to get outside and do physical things more. I played sports a lot when I was younger, and then all the way through college, and even a little bit after, and then have gotten away from it. I grew up hiking and camping, backpacking, skiing, all of that, and now I can just feel my body. I'm not getting any younger, and it's going to take a little while to build back up to maybe half of what I used to be able to do, and I need I need to get going on that, because pretty soon I'm not going to be physically capable of doing this kind of thing. Man alive, random username. He says, Christmas bonus, $100 super chat. Thank you, my man. Thank you very much. Samoa Bob says, bring back old internet. Yes. Mr. Westford, I fucked my ankle first time I went skating. Is skiing less idiot-proof or more? I think it's probably less idiot-proof. I've done quite a bit of both. So I didn't like rollerblading. I've done roller skating. I've done ice skating, and I've done skiing. And I tried. I did water skiing, and I tried doing snowboarding, and it just never fit my brain right. I just liked I don't like having my feet bound together. I like having, the ability to move. Now, with skiing, I would say you're a lot more likely, if it's a lower leg thing, you're actually maybe more likely to do that with skiing. Skating, you're more likely to do an upper body thing, or like your head, like get a concussion or break a wrist or arm or something like that, or dislocate your shoulder, that kind of thing. Whereas skiing can be actually pretty hard on your ankles and your knees, especially because like your skis get yanked opposite directions, or when you're crashing, and like if your ski doesn't break free from its binding right, then your knees can get torqued around, and can be kind of hard on the hips and lower back. But I would say there's probably a greater margin for error with skiing, where with skiing, once you kind of start going down, you're going to go down. With skating, you can be like do bam, and you just go down all of a sudden. That doesn't really exist with skiing, so I would strongly recommend it. Okay, let's. Oh yeah, here's another one. Just dudes being dudes, and I think about this for my son. Like I want to be able to look out the window and see him being able to like mastering this sort of thing, and I want to help him with that as well, because I think this sort of hand-eye coordination, physical mastery of even just sort of a meaningless thing like this, being able to execute this physical mastery and being in touch with your the movement of your body and your awareness of your presence within time and space, and for your brain to track that and be able to gauge distances and all this sort of thing. This is why I'm a huge sports ball proponent, and I always will be. I don't care how cringy they make the actual professional sports themselves. I'm always going to be a big sports ball proponent. This is hours and 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 hours of practice. And it's good for young men to have this sort of thing with other young dudes. Just you're going to go out and you're just going to go do some physical thing and try to accomplish some great thing, for even if it's completely meaningless in itself. Just kind of like set an arbitrary measure, like we're going to do this for 30 minutes nonstop, and then just go accomplish that with other dudes. Super wholesome. And this guy let his intrusive thoughts win.
Come on, fucker, go!
That worked a lot better than I expected it to. I thought he was going to get up on it and have it like tip over sideways and go like sideways into the ice. Have him have to get scrambling out of the way. That actually worked out really well. They're old dudes too. Okay, man. Random username. He is dropping the wealth in here today. 5 gifted memberships. Welcome to the King Pilled, SB, Judge Maddie, Jonathan, and can I scroll through these without clicking every single thing? Wolfgang Graves and Nicholas Bauman. Welcome, everybody, to the King Pilled. Okay, so this is a story here. It was dividing opinion very much. This was a part of the discourse while I was sick. And I have some thoughts, and then there's some very wholesome stuff attached to this thread that I wanted to get into. So first, we'll watch the video.
Hey, what are you doing? I came out to check on you.
Huh?
What are you doing? Thought you were working.
I'm looking at this.
What is it?
It's wire. It's a spool of wire. And I'm almost out of it. Can you see the spool of wire?
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost out of it.
Okay.
And I've had this spool of wire for like 40 years. I bought it like this it's not a piece of a long time ago, but it's like 40 years of my life is in the wire that's gone. Does that make sense? This is what's left. Does that make
I'm
sense?
sorry to hear that, and I'm sad for you, but you're wearing your Jets hat, and I'm a little concerned right now that you're wearing your Jets hat. I thought that's why you were crying.
Okay, I'm done.
That dude is never going to open up to his wife about something like that again, ever. The caption of this is why men keep to themselves. And it's every single guy I've seen who watched this it's like a dagger straight to the chest. And then to me, I think it's less about her reaction, because her reaction is annoying, and it's like, yeah, whatever. My take on that is that needs to go in the bucket of evidence for why women should not be allowed to post online, because I see both of them as really having been, in a sense, victimized by this situation here, because she has this desire for internet points that's like tugging at her. She's like, oh, I want to get something. I want to be one of the funny ladies that posts my funny video online of me getting my own in on my dorky husband. Ha ha, he's a sports ball fan. Ha ha ha. And so she's like compelled to do this, and it like shuts off her ability to connect and recognize what's happening in this moment here, where he's like confronting his mortality, and he has this little totem that's developed all of this meaning, that has all of this history embedded in it. What timing? The Underground Man is here.
Here I am. I've arrived.
Did you see this? Have you been following what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I did. I did see that clip yesterday.
Mm-hmm. What was your reaction to it?
I immediately because at first I listened to it without any audio on, so I was just reading like the subtitles or whatever. So I was not at all. I didn't realize it was his wife talking to him. I wasn't exactly sure what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't occur to me just how fucking naggy she sounded. I immediately understood. I understood what this guy was like. I get it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Imagine having a single tool like that for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even lived 40 years. And I have little totems like that are really, really meaningful to me for similar reasons. Just this thing that's always been there. And it's like, there's no point. It's running out. There's just a stick. Like, I just got a stick here that I'm really happy about. And I don't want to throw away my stick. And it kind of feels silly. But at the same time, it's really profoundly meaningful, because how many things do you spend 40 years with? It's just...
Or even like books. Books are that way with me.
Mm.
If they're really sentimental, even though it's like a shitty paperback that's falling apart or something like that, and I can just go get another one, but it's like, this is the one I read. Like, this series here, The Wheel of Time, I spent 1.5 years of my life reading that. So it's like you build like friendships with these characters, and they're a part of your life, and you're a part of theirs, and it's like I'm never gonna get rid of that set, and I don't even let people borrow it because I want that one.
Wit said he's thinking of all the things he's done with The Wire. Men are what they do. Mm-hmm. So what one of the beautiful things about this video being posted and going viral is that it created the opportunity for for this thread. So Caribbean Rhythms says, when my grandfather passed, my grandmother would spend hours in his garage knitting quietly among his tools. Each one left exactly where he'd last placed it. She didn't know what any of them were for, but she kept every screw, every bolt, every wrench. She believed that he'd left pieces of his soul behind in every tool and thing he'd built. She used to hate the smell of engine oil and that metallic scent of machinery, but after he was gone, she found peace in it, like it was the closest thing left of him. She even kept the oily rags he used to shove into the back pocket of his overalls. Ethelstan says, my grandfather was a great engineer, never even went to university. He built a fully functional miniature train, complete with an actual mini furnace inside it, probably as long as a smart car. Gran left the workshop untouched until she died some 25 years later. It's beautiful. Mida Respector says, we grew up around the corner from a seamstress, and after she passed, her husband of over 50 years said that their house was too quiet without the sewing machine always running. He asked my mom if he could come watch a game while she sewed in the background because he missed the sound. And Soulsayer says, my grandfather's tool shed has remained untouched since he passed when I was a kid. When I went into it recently, I was enamored by the organized chaos, a style of organization that every guy understands. You can see each thought of where to hang certain things out of convenience. That I can relate to big time. So yeah, that I really enjoyed that thread, and
yeah, that video, man, that's pretty. It's kind of heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. I hope it's fake. I don't think it is. Some people were saying it was fake, it was staged. I think you get the sense that it was staged because she was staging it. She was recording it. He had no idea that it was being recorded. His reaction to me seems, I don't think you could fake that just instant spiritual change that he had when she said it.
It's pretty brutal, man. I do not imagine my wife would ever do something like that. But if my wife, caught me in one of these sort of existential, deeply meaningful moments, of which I'm wont to have actually fairly often, so she's probably pretty used to it. And then were to mock me and put it up on the internet for everyone to laugh at me. That might be the end of our marriage.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't I feel bad being too hard on this woman. Like I said, I think I think she's a woman, and that's you can see that in his mind as well. Like he knows immediately
she doesn't get it.
She doesn't get it. She's not going to get it. There's no point in getting it. I'm the sucker here. Like I'm the one that allowed myself to be put into a position like this where something like this could happen. It's not her fault that things went that way. I'm just going to take it on myself and move on.
Yeah.
Now what's that?
No, I get it. I have in my basement a bunch of my grandpa's tools from when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really a point to that. Just that, I've got tools that are, his dad gave him, and now I have them. And it's there's a story there. These things are over 100 years old.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Imagine living in a society where you can produce tools that will last for 100 years.
Yeah, and they're still in good condition too.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I think this is part of the there's a natural cycle.
These things were made in 1912.
There's a natural cycle where the hollowing out of this sort of quality manufacturing inevitably leads to a major desire for that kind of manufacturing. So there's a natural mechanism that will bring it back around again.
I hope so.
And I think that we're moving back. You're starting to see this kind of thing, these custom artisanal works that the internet actually allows people, especially once like with 3D printing and different the intersection between AI algorithms and 3D printing and some of the crazy things people will be able to handcraft for really, really low costs, but be able to make really high quality and then ship.
My wife just started a new hobby of making like epoxy chessboards.
Yes, like that. That's so freaking cool.
And it's not expensive, and they are freaking cool.
Yes, and so now, like what we're seeing now is there's an increase in demand for something like that. Like you drown people in Chinese crap for so long, eventually they're just going to be like, "Can I get something good? Can I get something that doesn't suck? That isn't just going to fall apart? That isn't like some garish color or wrapped in covered in preservatives or chemicals or whatever that's sapping all my hormones away? Can I just have like a nice wooden tool?" Or a nice American made, American manufactured, beautiful piece of artwork or something like that.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my my buddies the other day, one of my customers, and he was bitching to me about how he had to redo the brakes on his truck, and he's one of those kind of guys where it's like, all right, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. I don't want to do this again for another 5 years. So like he does the rotors and the calipers and everything. And he goes down to the parts store, the same parts store he's been going to for 45 years. And he gets some calipers, takes it home, goes to loosen it. It's like one of these ones that kind of like you undo a bolt and it like clamps, the clamp opens up. Anyway, he couldn't the factory had put it in so tight that he couldn't get it out. So he got it in his vise and he was like banging on it. And finally he broke the bolt loose and the whole thing just like disintegrated. So he takes it back to the parts store, gets a different one. And this one's a sliding one where you've got like the pins that go in the boot and they slide on the caliper. And so he pulls it apart to hang it over the rotor and the pin pops out of the boot and it will not go back in. So he takes that back to the parts store and just like fucking throws it at the counter and bitches the guy out. And like the thing is, like all of these are made in, and you look at them, made in China, made in China, made in China, made in China, made in Mexico, whatever. And it's mind blowing because he has a GM. We live in the Lansing area. GM is in Lansing. Why are we getting calipers from fucking China when we have GM in Lansing? It's bullshit.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm just going to say that I've got some stuff on kind of related to this a little bit later when we talk about Scott Bessent. Yeah, this isn't going to last for long because that thing you're describing that seems really sort of silly and petty and annoying on the personal level. Like, why are we going to China to get? I live in Lansing. GM is here, and yet I'm getting parts for a GM vehicle shipped from China, and they're utter shit. Like
I can drive to the plant in literally 10 minutes.
Yes, right. So this phenomenon is actually it's a matter of national security.
And this is a great argument for tariffs.
Yes.
Because
yes. Okay.
This matters.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Maybe it costs a little more, but it matters.
All right. Put a pin in that because we've got some stuff to get through, and we're going to come back around to that subject here. Do you have feelings? I shouldn't ask it that way. Do you have an opinion on Timothy Chalamet?
I don't give a shit. No.
Yeah,
I've not watched the podcast. I've not seen the movie, the Dune movie he was in, or whatever movie he's in. Whatever he's in. I have no opinion. I don't know anything about the guy. He's got a weak beard. That's all I know. Handsome, but weak facial hair.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, he's some actor. But like apparently people have really strong opinions about him. Okay. So he was on College Game Day a few weeks ago, and he showed up there, the pregame show for college football, and he showed up on the panel there, and they were doing predictions, and he totally dominated this had really deep knowledge of some of the teams and the betting markets and everything. So he wasn't just some we get our token celebrity who comes and says, I like the purple team or whatever.
He was actually his autism.
He apparently has some autism related to that. But then there was, so I heard people referencing it because it was a lot of people were talking about it. And some of the guys I heard were like, oh, I can't fucking stand this guy. Like, he's just so, I hate him. I hate his face. And I was like, okay, I don't understand
I have no opinion.
Yeah, how do you have? Well, he seems kind of cool from this, but this story here of him on Theo Von is very interesting.
I not with the shameless plug, but I got this movie A Complete Unknown coming out on Christmas Day. Yeah, did you actually see it?
Yeah,
fantastic, man. So I'm excited that we can actually talk about it. And I was very much in the time period of the movie the whole time, trying to stay without being a dick, within the bounds of the character. But somebody in the hair and makeup trailer at the end of the day, they would play this podcast, which is how I discovered it. And particularly the episodes with the garbage man and sort of like the real life episodes, the lunch lady, the coroner.
Wayne, the garbage man. He's doing good.
Those were like awesome episodes,
Thanks,
and sort
man.
of like worldviews that I wouldn't get otherwise,
Yeah.
And
and you're from New York, right?
And I'm from New York, so Garbage Man, he totally recontextualized that for me.
Bro, he did a great job because they used to have
I used to hate them,
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think they're taking their time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I realized how tough that job is. I mean, he was
rough.
like throwing dogs in the back of the. I mean, that story's. Do you remember that?
There's a lot of missing.
Yeah.
Formerly living things started to disappear.
Yeah, in the back of the.
Theo Von has no fucking idea what he's talking about. This is some interview that Theo Von did that he's like, oh yeah, I did that interview once upon a time. And Timothy Chalamet's like, yeah, remember this specific thing that happened in it? And he's like, oh yeah.
Well, even then, Theo Von just says the most mundane things in the wackiest fucking way possible.
So Trunk Fan here said Timothy Chalamet on Theo Von's podcast to promote his Bob Dylan film is a great encapsulation of the media landscape. The 86-minute chat has about 3 million views on YouTube and probably the same in audio. A Jimmy Fallon spot is 5 minutes and 1.5 million viewers. Also, the way Chalamet found Vaughn is telling. Vaughn records these long pod episodes with blue-collar workers, like garbage truck drivers and lunch ladies. No mainstream outlet is doing these types of hours-long shows. During filming for the Dylan Project, Chalamet's hair and makeup team would listen to Vaughn while prepping him, and Chalamet got hooked. Dude legit got incepted by Vaughn's Southern Riz. Spontaneous, permissionless, and no gatekeepers. And then just another bonus Theo Von clip here. The Theo Von intro gets me every time. Chalamet, one of the top acting people in the world, acting human.
Young acting people in the world, acting humans. You've seen him in Dune, Willy Wonka, A Beautiful Boy, and now his new movie, A Complete Unknown, where he plays Bob Dylan in theaters Christmas Day. You can check it out. I had to go to Rama, Ontario, in the Canada, Pittsburgh, PA, Eugene, Oregon, Kennewick, Washington, Seattle, Washington, Victoria, BC, in the Canada, College Station, Texas.
Literally like listening to him read the phone book, basically, which I would do. Oh, yeah, someone here said, I don't think you could train a supercomputer to predict who Theo's next guest is going to be. I'm predicting that the next guest will be the mayor of a small town in the Midwest. I don't get it. Was there something else in here? No, that was it. I'm going to play I've got a couple more clips here, and then I'm going to play the... what's the Tim Dillon one that I played for you yesterday?
Yeah, I like this. Just going based off of that clip there. I don't know. This Chalamet fellow seems like an okay dude, I guess.
Mm-hmm. He seems like I mean, I like the fact that the fact
that he's even on Theo's show is like, okay, so he's not one of these like pearl clutching fucking lizard people,
right? And like he was attracted by the show because of these stories about like the middle class people, and he's like, I'm not a middle class person, like I totally didn't live in that world at all, but this is fascinating. These are sort of like really interesting stories to me. I like seeing that perspective from, it would be easy for him to be really snooty and just kind of like looking down his nose at him.
Which is the worst, most perverted aspect of the current elite, is that they hate the population.
Yes. Speaking of, that was a perfect setup.
All right. It's Wade Stotts.
It's Wade Stotts. Speaking of, now, okay, I'm not saying Wade is one of these people. Wade is now going to parody the exact type of people that you're talking about. The people who look down their nose at the common man.
Hi.
Yeah, no, wait.
If the series finale of Yellowstone has taught us anything, it's that conservatives will believe anything you say as long as you have a few key elements. Stuff like cowboy hats, earnest talking.
My ancestors came here, land sold for $1.25 an acre, and that's the price I offer you.
Folksy accents.
Men cannot truly own wild land.
Pictures of graves, a cross, and drone shots of Montana. And if that's what it takes to get conservatives on board, I'm willing to give it a try. So here are some things that I think conservatives should believe in a style that might get through to them. Enjoy. Now, I'm a simple man. I don't know much. But there's a few things I reckon I do know. I know how to drive a stick shift. I know how good it feels to wake up early for an honest day's work. And I know that Martin Luther King was a communist, and LBJ's Civil Rights Act did way more damage than Obamacare could ever dream of. Thomas Sowell believes that, so you can too. I know that McCarthyism was good. If anything, it didn't go far enough. I know that America ain't an idea. Pancakes for breakfast is an idea. A mighty fine one if you ask me. I know that there's no such thing as a marketplace of ideas. It's not like some Saturday farmer's market where you can pick up some fresh picked fruit or homemade soap. Most people just believe what they're told. Oh, I don't mean you, of course. You're an independent thinker. Ain't that right? I know that freedom ain't for everybody. It's possible for a nation to degenerate to the point that they give up their freedom. Whatever comes next is what they at some level deserve. Edmund Burke said that, but so did I, in this accent. Now I realize this is getting a mite heavy, so here's a video of a dog. Who's a good boy? You are. And so was Richard Nixon. The deep state took him out back when everybody still believed the media, so a lot of people think he's a crook. But independent thinkers like you and me, we know different. I also know there's no such thing as a religiously neutral state, or a politically neutral religion for that matter. I know that homosexuality is gross, and it ain't the way God intended things. I know that politics ain't about winning a debate. It's about beating the bad guys, making a place where the good guys can live a normal life. And finally, I know that public schools are trying to make your kids trans, but they'll settle for making them annoying. Like I said, I don't know much, but even simple people like us can make a difference. Pickup trucks.
Oh, brilliantly done.
They'll settle for making them annoying.
Yep. Wade's been just dominating lately. 313,000 views on that one.
Yeah, he's killing it.
And that's just on Twitter. He's on YouTube.
You got to get him back on so you can kind of ride the coattails.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, do the same thing with him I did with Oren. You know, I knew you when you were a little guy. Now let's now that you're big and famous, come pull me up another level. Okay.
What do you? What? How are you going to handle the like when it comes to raising kids? And you're like, okay, they're going to have a rebellious phase because all good kids do. All the smart ones. How do you approach the first half of their youth before they hit that, such that when they do hit that, they don't rebel into being annoying or trans?
So basically, like,
how do you take on this?
How do you game out their rebellion so that you try to make it so when they rebel against something, they're rebelling into the right direction?
Yeah, or at least not in like the wrong, like catastrophically wrong direction. Do you have thoughts about this?
Yeah, probably. I can't say that out loud.
Okay.
Make them go ride a subway on New York City. This is the conservative case for making your children ride the New York City subway alone every day. So that when they rebel, that's what they rebel against.
Okay.
Serious answer though. I don't know. That's a tough. It's like you want to. Yeah, I think this is the like the age old dilemma of every parent to their child is you have to figure out how to modulate the extent to which you allow them to do dumb stuff to learn the lessons from that, and the extent to which you keep them from doing dumb stuff. But then in the keeping them from doing dumb stuff tactic package, you have to do it in a way to not make the dumb stuff look attractive. It's like, I'm not keeping you from this thing because it's alluring. It's not like, because you can make it cool. If you're like, this thing is off limits, you can make it seem cool to the person who's
I know that
at the point where they want to start exploring all the limits. So I think probably the answer is going to be different for boys and versus girls. For boys, I think you have to give them lots of opportunities to break boundaries. You can't like
it's
keep
good
them
for
from
boys
doing
to
it.
get into a little bit of trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Amy says, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough.
Yeah.
So, letting them get hurt, giving them like constructive ways to do destructive things.
I've the approach I've taken thus far is to be like basically completely apolitical around my kids. It doesn't come up, it doesn't get talked about. It's just like a complete nothing. It's a non-issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not like even something we talk about or think about, or I'm not flying Trump flags and stuff like that. Like I'll have an American flag or something like that, and then we got our icon corner or whatever. But I'm not like, because I know how my parents were with me, and they were very like,
Mm-hmm.
Mothers against drunk driving. Like it was like what we talked about the other day. My parents were very overbearing, and obviously I was like, well, fuck that, and had a succession of phases that were exceptionally gay and annoying to look back on. But I've finally come around to realize, hey, maybe they were right about some things, but it would have been better if I just didn't have to do all the stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if I don't, this is my theory thus far. We'll see how it pans out. But if I'm not if I'm not really giving them anything to rebel against, like what are they gonna do? I don't know. We'll see what happens. There are very few exceptions. It have the oldest. She was in kindergarten, first grade, something like that, second grade, right around that range. And I remember at one point getting the kids to bed, and I think a lot of these things, if you don't overdo it, kind of work themselves out. And if you just kind of reinforce things occasionally at the right moment, that's probably good.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for example, again, the oldest, she's 10 now. She was around somewhere between kindergarten and second grade, and she remember we're getting the kids in bed and tucking them in. The kids are talking about I don't know how they got on the topic. I came into the room to say goodnight and tuck them in, and they had already been talking about like where babies come from. So we're at this point, we're dealing with like a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And this is, it was a very low level conversation, but the oldest was, because she's much older and wiser than the younger ones, and she knows so much about the world. She was explaining to them that women get pregnant, and that's the babies are in the belly, and then they come out. And then she had a quick moment where she looked at me and she's like, well, my teacher also said that boys can get pregnant too. But she had this kind of like I could tell, looking at her face and the expression on her face, I could tell that she knew there was something weird and off about this, but she was looking. She had one authority figure tell her this, and now she's looking to me to see if I'm going to validate that or not. And I'm glad I had the, I don't know, sense of awareness to realize what was happening at that moment. Because then I was like, you know, I didn't fly off the handle or anything like that, but it was just like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And she's like, and that's what I thought. So I think a lot of these things are kind of in them already. And they have, you know, they have eyes, and the education system, especially public schools, are basically designed to teach them to like ignore all of their sensory input and their reasoning faculties.
Because children are actually like, children have a more naturally attuned sense for the truth than adults do. They're born with it. They're born innately. Like they're closer to God when they're born. So they have a keener sense for him, and it has to get it takes it's life and the being subjected to the weights of sin that begin to corrupt that faculty. And so then this is what's so incredibly evil about the way they've gone after the education systems and gone and explicitly tried to program the minds of little people, because what they're doing is they're aggressively attacking that keen and innate sense for the truth. They're like going full hog on it right away, because that's when it's the strongest, and they're also the most vulnerable to having it degraded.
Yeah, you got to like distort them while they're young, and you know. So that's as far as like kind of political thinking and stuff like that. Yeah, as the only times I ever bring, it's just moments like that where it's like I've had a couple moments like that where it's not even me going on like this crusade or this tirade about the fucking libs and this and that and the Jews here and the women there, and it's just kind of reinforcing what she already knows to be true, and then just kind of stepping back off. And I'm that way with respect to religion as well. Like, it's not something that I'm constantly like preaching about and like my parents were. It's just like, this is just something we do. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But this is something we do. I'm not here moralizing and being annoying. And Straight Buster says, my parents were not political, and I don't think I was rebellious as a kid, so you might be onto something. Oh, eh?
Yeah, I think the notion, like, there's let me see how to explain this. There's this thing we call rebelliousness in kids, and you think of it as kind of like this, I don't know, it's like a hormonal thing, or it's this upwelling of spirit or something like that. And we sort of equate these things because the way that there's like hormonal truth to that. There's their developing brain and suddenly becoming more and more aware of the world outside of them and less focused locally. Like, all of these things together feed into this phenomenon, but it doesn't have to manifest itself as rebellion. It can manifest itself as invention. Like, that's the same function. The rebellion and
like
invention,
curiosity, and
it's like pushing boundaries or trying to it's like, I don't know, climbing over a wall to see what's on the other side. And if the walls have been built such that the very act of climbing them automatically puts you in danger, then you're just going to make them want to climb the wall even more. So like, I think what you're talking about here is you're not building a whole bunch of walls there that are just there for the sake of having a wall there.
Right. That's another kind of, I'm pretty laissez-faire. I have a handful of rules, not a ton, just a handful of rules. I don't hit my kids. I'm not like super strict or anything like that. I just have like a couple of rules. Like, the only thing that's going to get you're going to get smacked in the mouth if you talk back to your mom. That's the only thing that I'm going to ever hit you for. So just don't do that, and you're not going to get hit. And which is good, because I don't want to hit you, and I don't want you talking back to your mom. But that's one of just a couple of like rules that it's like, these are enforced 100% of the time, no exception, severely. But aside from that, I'm pretty hands off, and I've got really good kids. I don't know how. I've got really, really good kids who are very bright and creative and explorative, and you know, they're all different in their different ways. Like the boy, he's kind of like temperamentally, he's very rule oriented. So he doesn't like breaking rules. He doesn't want to get in trouble. So for him, I actually have to kind of make him. I kind of like the other day we went up to the gas station to get some eggnog and donuts. And I was like, okay, hey, he's 7, and I didn't have a booster seat in the car, and I was like, hey, it's dark out. Why don't you ride up front with me? And we're not going to wear seatbelts because it's 2 blocks. It's 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is because he kind of needs to like. He kind of needs that. He needs to be pushed. Like, okay, you gotta explore a little bit. He's a little timid. But yeah. He would the whole time. He's like, you're gonna go to jail. You're gonna go to jail. He's like freaking out the whole time.
Of course, now, like after that, I'm sure he thinks you're a total badass.
Yeah, right. And I said, and he was gonna go get his coat on and stuff because it's cold. I was like, no, leave your coat. We're gonna go get in the cold car, and you're gonna sit up front without a seatbelt. We're gonna drive 2 blocks over to get you some donuts and eggnog. And it was like a total adventure for him.
Core memory established.
Yeah, right.
That's great. Ryan Isaac here with the shout out to the King Pill Discord, the kids channel. It is not the kids channel. It is the child abuse channel. That is the name. If you would like to get your parenting advice from the child abuse channel, then just join the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com. All right. So continuing the subject of families here, I was listening to, we're gonna kind of do a little bit of a gamble here. We're gonna stream something directly from YouTube. I think that if it's short enough clip, we could probably get away with it. There is the outside chance that it's going to take the stream down on YouTube. Just bear with us. It'll come back up again, and it'll be streaming constantly over on X. But this is worth playing. This is actually not an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. This is an episode of the Tim Dillon Show, and titled the Joe Rogan Experience because he's interviewing Joe. And Joe has never heard of the Costco guys, the Costco family. And so here is Tim Dillon introducing Joe to the Costco family.
You have a Twitch
There are
channel.
people that are very talented, but then there are people also that are just, they're good at getting famous and staying famous.
Right.
And some of it, like this family that screams and yells in a Costco. And they sing songs in a Costco. That's their whole thing. And they've been on the Tonight Show. And they're
Really?
You've never seen the Costco family?
No.
The Costco family is a family of cretins from Florida. And they scream and yell, and they have a song about Costco, and they eat these cookies. I mean, can you please back me up here because he thinks I'm making this up?
How do I not know about
That's
this?
the thing. They bring the boom.
They bring the boom.
They bring the boom, Joe?
They have a whole show.
They bring the boom?
I think they're demons, and it's an incantation because they go double chocolate cookie, and I think it's a demonic incantation, and I believe they're the physical representation of an entity called Baal. And we're talking about this.
What?
Look at this.
But this is an evolution. They got to this.
How many views are on this?
I mean, well, this is just the YouTube
This,
version.
but these are famous people, and this is something is wrong. This is as disturbing as the drones.
Well, here's the thing about TikTok and the thing about Reels and even Twitter to a certain extent. When you're just scrolling from video to video to video, like it doesn't have to be good to get your attention.
No, it's the cringe element of it is what makes, because every view is created equal.
Right.
So if you're repulsed by something and you keep showing it to people.
Right.
So that's how you got this family. Can you play their song?
Well, yeah, sorry.
I mean, Jamie, this is worse than the drones. and they're literally well known.
Do Christmas boom?
Yeah. I mean, this is like.
It's just giving me ads for some reason right now.
YouTube wants money.
They just broke through the ad blocker.
Give me that money.
I mean, don't they ever have enough, these people?
Here we go.
So dumb.
This is satanic.
Stay on brand.
So the point, the boom here.
These guys deserve all the money in the world.
They eat this garbage, and then they rate it on a boom meter. So they go eat this chicken bacon.
How
Costco.
famous are these people?
Very. I mean,
like very famous. Joe, it's
fame right now. Very famous. They're everywhere. This guy used to be a pro wrestler.
Maybe trying to maybe trying to.
So he knows how to perform.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But it's like.
See, look, Mr. Beast bringing the double chunk chocolate cookie.
I mean, this is.
It's a double chunk chocolate cookie.
It's an incantation. It's demonic.
Well, that's why the drones are here. It's a
But by the way,
Imagine
it is
that's a signal.
time. Like, as much as I don't want this to happen, like, it is time.
Don't you kind of want it to happen, though?
It might need to.
If it's aliens, I kind of want it to happen.
I think it might. They might have said, we're not doing that, the aliens. They might have heard double chocolate. And the aliens went, no, you fucking retards. We gave you technology thousands of years to figure it out. We visited the Sumerians. We gave them stuff, and you've used it to go to Costco. Enough. We're sending the orbs.
Yeah.
Oh man, I played this for Cooper yesterday. I told him I've never really listened to Tim Dillon. He's always been sort of, I don't know, vaguely libertarian kind of comedian guy who's in the Rogan orbit. And I've started listening to him basically since the election. One of the funniest human beings on the planet. Absolutely hilarious. His particular brand of comedy just absolutely tickles me. Straight Buster says finding out that they're Jewish was my 9/11. Well, speaking of, here's the next one I've got. Have you guys seen the movie The Believer? We were talking about this in the King Pill Discord the other day. This is an absolutely surreal experience. If you guys have not seen this, you have to.
Like, well, who's that guy? Is that the dude who's like a Jewish Nazi or something?
Yes. Okay. Yes. He is I mean, it gives a little bit of spoilers, but he's a self-hating Jewish Nazi, played by Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
This entire movie was written by Jews, and it was like absolutely lauded. It was some big like Sundance or some big film festival and they were just in awe of themselves at how amazing this movie is. And it is. I tweeted this. I said this movie's a mindfuck. Old Ken here dropping some absolutely legendary bars, and the whole thing is completely beyond parody. The most bizarrely navel-gazing shit of all time. So this is a movie written by Jews, very well celebrated about the Jewish identity, in which Ryan Gosling is playing a self-hating Jewish neo-Nazi who says things like this.
In the banks, investment banks, not the commercial ones, but the point is, they carry out in those realms the exact same principles that they display in sexuality. They undermine traditional life, and they deracinate society. Deracinate. Tear out the roots. A real people derives its genius from the land, from the sun, from the sea, from the soil, you know? This is how they know themselves. But like Jews don't even have soil. Those aren't Jews. Notice the Israelis. It's a fundamentally secular society. They no longer need Judaism because they have soil. Because the real Jew is a wanderer. He's a nomad. He's got no roots and no attachments, so he universalizes everything. You can't hammer a nail or plow a field. All they can do is buy and sell and invest capital and manipulate markets, and you know, it's like all mental. He takes a life of a people that's rooted in soil, and then he turns it into this cosmopolitan culture based on books and numbers and ideas, and you know, this is his strength. You can take the greatest Jewish minds ever. Marx, Freud, Einstein, what have they given us? Communism, infantile sexuality, and the atom bomb. In the mere 3 centuries, it's taken these people to emerge from the ghettos of Europe. They've ripped us out of a world of order and reason. They've thrown us into a chaos of class warfare, irrational urges, relativity, into a world where now the very existence of matter and meaning is in question. Why? Because it's the deepest impulse of a Jewish soul to pull at the very fabric of life till there's nothing left but a thread. They want nothing but nothingness. Nothingness without end.
The music balance was kind of weird. It wasn't as bad as it was on a phone. It sounded fine, but the balance between his voice and the music was weird. He's the hero of the movie. This is coming from the hero of the movie. It's the entire thing is. I'm not going to spoil the end.
Where do you place that in your head?
Right? I'm not one of the other lines he has here is well, hold on. Let me just pull this up because I want to make sure I get it exactly right.
How long's the movie been out? Is it over 10 years old?
Oh yeah, it's like 2001, maybe.
I think you can spoil it, man. Come on.
So he's like a neo-Nazi, part of a neo-Nazi like terrorist cell or something like that, and they're going to bomb a synagogue, and he winds up like he's like agonized and tormented, and winds up returning to. He's like a Nazi who is still identifies as a Nazi, but like reads the Talmud every day and does all of the prayers, and then he like gets a conscience at the last minute and tells all the people in the synagogue to leave, and then stays in there as the bomb explodes and kills himself. And the end and the very last scene of the movie is him it's something like him walking up this staircase and like asking questions and just going up endlessly, and there's no top to the staircase. It's genuinely a surreal experience. Devin Stack has probably the best breakdown of it. Like if you didn't necessarily want to sit and watch the whole thing, Devin Stack's he has a review of it that covers the gist of it and elaborates on it very well. This one here. So this is him speaking at another point in the movie. He says, "Let me put it this way. Who wants to destroy the Jews? Who wants to grind their bones into the dust? And who wants to see them rise again, wealthier, more successful, powerful, cultured, more intelligent than ever? Then you know what we have to do? We have to love them." What? Did he say love the Jews? It's strange, I know, but with these people, nothing is simple. The Jew says all he wants is to be left alone to study his Torah, do a little business, fornicate with his oversexed wife, but it's not true. He wants to be hated. He longs for our scorn. He clings to it as if it were the very core of his being. If Hitler had not existed, the Jews would have invented him. For without such hatred, the so-called chosen people would vanish from the earth. And this reveals a terrible truth and the crux of our problem as Nazis. The worse the Jews are treated, the stronger they become. Egyptian slavery made them a nation. The pogroms hardened them. Auschwitz gave birth to the state of Israel. Suffering, it seems, is the very crucible of their genius. So if the Jews are, as one of their own has said, a people who will not take yes for an answer, then let us say yes to them. They thrive on opposition. Let us cease to oppose them. The only way to annihilate this insidious people once and for all is to open our arms, invite them into our homes, and embrace them. Only then will they vanish into assimilation, normality, and love. But we cannot pretend. The Jew is nothing if not clever. He will see through hypocrisy and condescension. To destroy him, we must love him sincerely. If the Jews are strengthened by hate, wouldn't this destruction that you speak of, whether it's by love or any other means, wouldn't that make them more powerful than they are already? Yes, infinitely more. They would become as God. It's the Jews' destiny to be annihilated so they can be deified. Jesus understood this perfectly, and look what was accomplished there with the death of just one enlightened Jew. Imagine what would happen if we killed them all. It's just completely surreal. Anyways, that is The Believer. And again, I'll strongly recommend the Devin Stack review on it. Devin Stack, also known as Black-Pilled, for those who don't know. All right, so here's this funny story that happened. Yes, was this yesterday? 2 days ago. Two Navy pilots ejected safely over the Red Sea a short while ago when their FA-18 was shot down in an apparent case of friendly fire after the guided missile cruiser USS Gettysburg mistakenly fired on and hit the jet, per CENTCOM. So, 2 Navy pilots were shot down. They ejected safely, but they were shot down by a guided missile cruiser from the U.S. This was my reaction to it here. They shot down their own F-18? Yes, sir. Do the Houthis have F-18s? No, sir. The Houthis have a F-5, but it's unclear if it's combat ready. So then what did they think it was? Not sure. Could have been a drone. Okay, do their drones look like F-18s? No, sir. How does this possibly happen? How do you possibly have Americans shooting down American this is, again, this is the competency crisis. Now, maybe this is some cover for, there's some other sort of thing going on, and it was less embarrassing or less incriminating to say, oh, yeah, we accidentally shot down one of our own jets than it was to say, to admit to whatever else it was. But this really, really just continues to feed my narrative that the greatest threat to us is not malevolent people, it's incompetent people. And maybe I'm kind of crazy here in thinking if we're going to have a U.S. military, I'd like to have a competent U.S. military. It would be better to have no military than to have an incompetent military. Because with no military, at least you're not like depending on the military. But when it's incompetent, you never know when you can depend on it and when you can't. Another story here. So Trump has again called for the purchase of Greenland. Now, there's a couple interesting stories in here. This announcement where he really doubles down on this idea of purchasing Greenland comes in his announcement of the U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. And who does...
like 90% of Greenland completely uninhabited? It's like a frozen wasteland.
I think a lot of it is, yeah. But it's like there's a lot of natural resources there, and then it also geopolitically what am I thinking here? Like geographically, there's like a strategic position of it. Because if you look at like you have the Americas over here, and then Greenland, and then Europe and Asia over here. So Greenland is almost directly between North America, South America, and like the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere, essentially. This is, of course, assuming the standard model of the shape of the Earth and all. But so it's very interesting. This is what he says. He says, I'm pleased to announce Ken Howry as my choice for United States ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. Well, who's Ken Howry? Ken Howry is one of the core original PayPal Mafia guys. His name is like within the first like 5 names on the list of PayPal Mafia people on the Wikipedia entry. He was one of the first people that I started looking into a year ago. So he is the U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. He says, Ken is a world-renowned entrepreneur, investor, and public servant who served our nation brilliantly during my first term as U.S. ambassador to Sweden, where he led efforts to increase defense, security, and economic cooperation between our countries. As a co-founder of PayPal and venture capital fund Founders Fund, Ken turned American innovation and tech leadership into global success stories, and that experience will be valuable and invaluable in representing us abroad. For purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Ken will do a wonderful job in representing the interests of the United States. Thank you, Ken, and congratulations. What an odd time to announce that. Like, I mean, clearly, if the United States does feel that ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity, then the ambassador to Denmark is going to be a very important person for that. But isn't it interesting that he's not just announcing him, but he's like announcing him and saying, this is one of the key things that he's going to work on. I don't think that he did that with the other ambassadorships. It was just like, at least Stefanik's going to be the ambassador to the UN and they're going to do UN stuff. But here, I think this is the strongest declaration he's ever made about their intent to take control of Greenland. In the past, it's been sort of treated as like a meme a little bit, but it's becoming increasingly evident that they're incredibly serious about this new Monroe Doctrine approach.
Cool.
Between taking control of Greenland, making Canada the 51st state, which I don't think that's just a meme. I think there's something to it. Now, maybe the making it a state is not, but I think there's something to the fact that we're moving into a new era of like borders have been basically locked into place for, I don't know, a century. And we're moving into a new era where borders are going to start moving around again. And if you're the United States and you're concerned about your border security, then maintaining the Panama Canal is a lot easier than maintaining the Mexican border. So, I mean, I just found it fascinating. I mean, number one, I get to say, yeah, I told you so. Another PayPal Mafia validation here, but they're also talking about like doing a soft invasion of Mexico, which is basically like going to war with the cartels means that you're effectively doing kind of a soft invasion of Mexico. And where the cartels begin and end and where the government of Mexico begins and ends are pretty difficult to ascertain. So I guess the big takeaway from all of this is maybe the mass deportations are going to be a lot easier than we thought, because all they're going to be doing is just, they're not actually having to push people outside of the country. They're just having to reallocate people within different properties of the empire. So we got to have to, oh, and I think that was another tweet that I had in here. Yeah. From Jim Strabo, Powerful Mutual. He says, I'm all in favor of annexing Mexico and Central America, but where are we going to deport the locals once we do? Guys, I just had the best idea about what to do with Greenland. And then he said, whoops, I just realized I referred to them as locals and not illegals, which they are now. They do have to go, but I want to extend an olive branch and give them a path forward. They can be considered legal by never thinking about setting foot on American soil ever again. And, you know, he's memeing a little bit here, but I wonder if there isn't something to that. That part of the way you resolve the illegal immigration problem is just by exacting much more direct control over the countries immediately to the north and south. And you're actually, with this global realignment, you've got Scott Bessent, which we're going to get to here in just a minute, but he's talking about a Bretton Woods 2.0 and a complete global monetary realignment as well. So I think all the nothing ever happens bros are just going to be on life support for forever now. We might just have to pull the plug on them, because many happenings are starting to happen and they portend many, many more happenings. Okay, last couple things here. Okay, actually, let's do this one first. This is a quick text conversation between billionaires. You ever want to see what billionaires texting each other looks like? Here's Elon Musk texting Larry Ellison, April 20, 2022. Elon, any interest in participating in the Twitter deal? Larry Ellison, yes, ... Of course. Thumbs up emoji. Yeah, he threw a space in there as well. Elon Musk, cool. Roughly what dollar size? Not holding you to anything, but the deal is oversubscribed, so I have to reduce or kick out some participants. Larry Ellison, $1 billion, or whatever you recommend. Elon Musk, whatever works for you, I'd recommend maybe $2 billion or more. This has very high potential, and I'd rather have you than anyone else. Larry Ellison, I agree that it has huge potential, and it would be lots of fun. There you go. They just negotiated what turned out to be, I think it ended up being $1 billion investment. But this is like, it's like, hey, I'm going to McDonald's. You want something? Yeah, get me a McFlurry. All right, what size? Medium? Okay. It's the exact same tone, except they're like, how much do you want to invest? I don't know, $1 billion, $2 billion. Just let me check my couch cushions and see what's in there. Actually, I could probably swing $2 billion. I'm in for $2. So you've got that on one end of the spectrum, and then here's the other end. Quick reminder of just how shockingly stupid leftist journalists are. This is in 2020.
But you see it as a possibility if he wants to spend $1 billion beating this.
This is talking about Michael Bloomberg.
This guy, he could do it.
Absolutely. Somebody tweeted recently that actually with the money he spent, he could have given every American $1 million.
I've got it. Let's put it up on the screen. When I read it tonight on social media, it kind of all became clear. Bloomberg spent $500 million on ads. U.S. population 327 million. Don't tell us if you're ahead of us on the math. He could have given each American $1 million and have had lunch money left over. It's an incredible way of putting it.
It's an incredible way of putting it. It's true. It's true. Disturbing. It does suggest.
New York Times editorial board member Mara Gay.
You know what we're talking about here, which is there's too much money in politics, and it makes it difficult because what we want.
Go ahead.
How do you be wrong by 6 zeros?
Yeah, right. They sit here and they look at it. They look at it and they're like, yep, seems right. $500 million. The population's 327 million. He could have given every American $1 million. They literally did the meme. Incredible. Stupid people. All right, so more me saying I was right. Jason says that PayPal Mafia thing won't amount to much. I said, in case you had any doubts about the centrality of the DOGE mission to the Trump admin, the quote-unquote head of HR for the executive branch is an Andreessen Horowitz OG. So this is another recent announcement. Trump says, I'm pleased to announce that Scott Kapoor will serve as the director of the Office of Personnel Management. Now, you guys will remember, I've been waiting to see who this person was going to be, because when Vivek went on the Sean Ryan show last year, and he broke down in detail like how you actually go about slashing the federal workforce and closing down a bunch of agencies, and he had like laid out a majority of the game plan for it. He said there's two positions that are incredibly important. One of them, and that you need to ensure that you have true believer loyalists staffing them. One of them is the director of OMB. The other one is the director of OPM. Director of OMB is Russ Vought. We've talked about him. He is clearly a true believer, very much one of our guys. He has a great conversation with Tucker Carlson. I strongly recommend you guys listen to. And now we see the director of OPM is the first employee of Andreessen Horowitz. So if you guys don't think that this DOGE thing is like they are serious about firing people. They are going to fire a shit ton of people. And they're gonna have to figure out exactly how to do it. They've got a bunch of ideas for how to do it, and they're gonna meet a bunch of political opposition. But they're not coming in here like, oh, we just need to kind of make things look a little bit better. These are people who are deeply personally invested because they personally will be enriched, and their own favorite investment and innovation agendas will be fulfilled only if the regulatory state gets absolutely kneecapped and the bureaucrats available to stand in their way and disrupt their going to Mars and such. The only way they're going to be successful is if those bureaucrats get cleared out. So I know there's a lot of people who are very skeptical that this is going to happen, who are just, the DOGE doesn't actually have it isn't actually a real government agency. All their power is just informal. We've just seen what it looks like. We had a trial run last week, and it was a wild success. If you don't think that was a wild success, what just happened was completely unprecedented. Having that bill get that quickly dissected and overrun completely. Congress's will was overrun completely by Elon Musk going ham. And I think he tweeted something like 127 times in 12 hours or something crazy. He went absolutely nuts and demonstrated how this is going to work. So having people who are personally aligned and deeply aware of what the problems are at the head of the HR department for the government, which is OPM, and then the accounting, the budgeting, the Office of Management and Budget, having maybe you might call it like the CFO, sort of. So you got like the CFO and the head of HR here for the executive branch. They are dyed-in-the-wool true believers in this project of massively slashing it. So they are going to work cooperatively, professionally with the DOGE, because the people who are running the DOGE are all personally and professionally related with them as well. So the slashing is going to be happening from within, and it's going to be facilitated and pressured and, bootstrapped from without by the DOGE. So now you have... what the government people can't do, the private sector people can do, and what the private sector people can't do, the government people can do. And so they're basically forming a pincher effect to make this happen. This is legitimately FDR stuff. This is easily the most qualified, talented group of people assembled in a presidential administration since at least FDR. So one of them is Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary. This is what he was saying before the election. So this guy is played a big role in, or played a role, was involved in George Soros taking down the pound back in the 90s. And he started his career as an intern for Jim Rogers, for the Jim Rogers. So for the first time in I don't know how long, Steve Mnuchin was Treasury Secretary, and he was not an egghead. But we're going to have a Treasury Secretary who's an actual operator, who's actually participated in the markets and knows how the market works on a deep level, is not just some egghead economist or something like that. He's a guy who's got a deep wealth of experience. And this is what he was talking about in the before the election. So this is important to understand the incoming alliance of the Fed plus tariffs plus the Treasury Department.
And a lot of what I'm doing now is just a continuation of what I've done for 35 years. It's the geopolitical analysis, it's macroeconomic analysis, it's following trends. And I decided to come out from behind my desk because I do believe this election, there's a big choice, and we are going to decide whether we are going to grow our way out of this debt burden. And I think we can through deregulation, energy independence and dominance in the U.S., and a growth mindset. We can get back to growth. I feel very strongly that this is the last chance to grow our way out of this. I also felt very strongly that we're in the midst of a great realignment and of a Bretton Woods realignment that's coming in terms of global policy, global trade. There's a lot of what I taught at Yale. I've been studying my whole life. I'd like to be part of it, either on the inside or the out. And then 3, I think that this new Republican Party that's been reconstituted with these new constituencies is the party of the future. It's a melding of working class and business class people. I'm determined that these new constituencies get treated well.
So he has an interesting article that he wrote October 23rd. This is a Trump advisor on how the international economic system should change. Abandoning the international trading system altogether would be a major mistake, argues Scott Bessent. And I think from everything that I've listened to, all the related people talking about the incoming Trump administration, I think the most important, all these things sort of tie together. So you've got the mass deportations, you've got the reshoring of manufacturing, you've got the deregulation, you've got the debt and the deficit, you've got the DOGE, and then you've got Bitcoin policy. All of these things here, they all play a part with each other. And all of the people who are incoming are all well documented on the record as being well aware of the relationship between all of these things. And they're signaling what a lot of their intent is. Now, some of their stuff they can't signal because there's like a strategic reason. You have to keep some of your powder dry. But I think that Scott Bessent is going to be one of the most important people. You've got Scott Bessent at Treasury. You've got Howard Lutnick at Commerce. You've got, I forget the guy's name, Atkins at the SEC. Paul Atkins, I think. These guys are I think going to have outsized influence in the administration. And then there's some interesting connections with Michael Saylor that we'll get to here in just a minute. But I wanted to read this because if you're trying to understand what 2025 is going to look like, I know we've talked a lot about within our little circle here, we've talked a lot about what's happening in Europe and the relationship this is going to have to the United States. You've got the Tom Luongo thesis, and there's, we're kind of feeling in the dark, trying to see exactly what's going to happen, so you could best be suited to try to survive the tumult. And I think that Bessent gives some real clues here as to where his mind is. So he says the United States must play a more active role in reshaping the international economic order. Completely abandoning the international trading system would be a disaster for the American people and our allies. However, the status quo creates security vulnerabilities, and the aggregate economic benefits for the United States are unclear. So the status quo creates security vulnerabilities. This is a repudiation of the notion that, you could just hollow out your manufacturing base, send everything over to China, have them send the finished goods to you, and export your debt. This is a national security issue for the United States. The next generation of America's international economic policy must more closely link security and economic relations to deliver the benefits that truly free trade can bring. Adjustments are needed, but they must be carefully calibrated and deliberately paced. The experience of globalization has demonstrated shortfalls in the two principal theories that motivated its supporters. So he's a globalization skeptic. The first was that by opening its markets to the world and thus promoting economic cooperation, the United States would strengthen its national security. This is where goods cross borders, armies won't, or whatever. This security theory of integration produced mixed results. Opening American markets to European countries and to Japan after the Second World War helped those countries rebuild their economies and transformed them into crucial security allies. However, integration with rivals such as China has created vulnerabilities. Increased Chinese prosperity has in many ways consolidated the power of the Chinese Communist Party rather than tempering it. Global supply chains also handed the CCP a geopolitical tool in the form of the ability to disrupt other countries' economies by withholding critical inputs. Additionally, international economic integration altered the underlying structure of the American economy, changing the balance of power in relation to our adversaries. The shift of industrial production abroad and the corresponding reallocation of American resources into the service sector arguably provided aggregate benefits in periods of geopolitical calm. So when we sent all of our industrial production to China and then had American workers all reallocate themselves into the service sector, well, it was great. We have a great service economy when there's geopolitical calm. But now that there is not geopolitical calm, suddenly this is a glaring national security void. Because if you imagine a situation where the United States has to get directly involved militarily with a peer, we don't have the manufacturing base to support any sort of sustained action. So we're going to have to win up front, or we're going to get what's the word where you get worn down over time, attrition. We're going to lose the war of attrition because we don't have the manufacturing base to sustain it. But ultimately, the strength of the defense industrial base is closely tied to the health of the broader industrial base. The second theory of globalization was that it would lead to economic benefits. This argument relied on the classic Ricardian comparative advantage paradigm. So basically, if you're better at making widget A and I'm better at making widget B, then we each specialize in our thing and then trade them. Even if economic integration led to short-term disruptions like the loss of manufacturing jobs because of the gap between American wages and cheaper foreign labor, these disruptions would balance out over time. Foreign markets would open up to American producers, and relative foreign competitiveness would decrease via foreign wage increases and currency effects, preventing persistent imbalances in the global economy. That was ostensibly what was supposed to happen. The results of this experiment were similarly mixed. The short-term efficiency of the global economy improved, the cost of goods fell dramatically, helping curb inflation, but the distributional implications of trade liberalization were overlooked, exacerbating American inequality. Furthermore, the adjustment process that was necessary to achieve Ricardian comparative advantage has largely not materialized, resulting in persistent imbalances in the global economy. The wish for equilibrium has been prevented by the deliberate policy changes of foreign governments, particularly China, but also Japan, South Korea, and other export-dependent economies. Such overt policies include tariff and non-tariff barriers to market access, currency manipulation, subsidies for preferred industries, forced technology transfers, and outright theft of intellectual property. So basically, for the Ricardian comparative advantage idealistic worldview to bear itself out, there has to be this expectation that all the countries involved are going to maintain the same domestic trade strategies. But if you can't control all of them and force them into maintaining the same domestic policy with respect to their country as you have with respect to yours, if they're free to change things and pursue their own betterment at your expense, they're going to do that. And so if you handcuff yourself and you're like, well, we can't use these same tools to our own ends, then you're going to pay the price for it. On a more subtle level, governments' choices about the structure of their economies have also created the imbalances. For example, many countries suppress the household share of national income, which artificially raises the international competitiveness of their export sectors. China's size and its extremely low consumption share make it the most glaring example, but Germany, Vietnam, and other surplus countries need to boost domestic demand. Indeed, overall economic imbalances are actually increasing, suggesting the United States' bilateral focus on China is insufficient to rebalance the international system. The United States' monthly trade deficit in July reached a post-pandemic high of $79 billion, and the annual deficit in goods is on track to exceed $1 trillion for the fourth year in a row. So,
Hey, Matt,
yeah.
I just sent you something on Instagram that I think is quite relevant to this article.
Okay.
FYI.
Let me open it up here. How do I use Instagram? Let's see.
Yeah, I don't ever use Instagram. I had to
Oh,
reset
yes.
my password and shit here. From the greatest of all time.
Let me find here it is. Yeah. Welcome to my meme page. Our first country is blessed with an abundance of steel, but hungers for wheat. And while our second country is desperate for steel, they have been favored with endless fields of wheat, which they harvest and stack in mounds to the sky. What should these countries do? Ah, never mind. While we were deliberating, the second country learned to build machines and cities out of wheat, and the first has discovered a way to eat steel. They are now at war.
I was there in the Discord chat with him when he made this meme.
You know the deep lore, huh?
I do.
In the before times.
We were in the secret politics channel in his Discord that only the OGs were in, and I was one such person, and we were talking about comparative advantage, and that's when he came up with this meme.
So what do you think? Would you rather be the country that learned to build machines and cities out of wheat, or the one that discovered a way to eat steel?
Steel. That sounds cool.
Yeah. If they figured out a way to eat steel, they probably got it. Yeah, they've got really good teeth.
Or yeah.
Because there's got to be some sort of an evolutionary effect there.
I imagine like trying to make a sword or a gun out of wheat.
You're basically hitting someone with a loaf of French bread.
Yeah.
You're going to war with baguettes.
Faggots.
That too. Okay, let's get back over here. The lesson of global economic integration is that free trade is to some degree in tension with free markets. Ricardian comparative, don't listen, libertarians, or do. Ricardian comparative advantage only works to the extent that economic systems are compatible, and therefore trade between the two does not result in imbalances over time. And if a country with a free market trades with a managed economy, it in effect imports the industrial policy choices of the managed economy. And because trade clears on a global basis, countries that run significant imbalances affect all participants in the global trading system, not just their bilateral counterparties.
Right, and the managed economies get the benefit of having basically they get all the benefits of having a free market without having to actually, have a free market.
Exactly. Yes. Despite its many flaws, abandoning the international trading system would be a major economic and strategic mistake. Instead, the United States must adopt policies aimed at correcting the sources of imbalances in the international economy. Critically, these measures must act on a global basis, as bilateral actions largely shift imbalances around rather than address their underlying source. Interventions at the macroeconomic level, like broad-based tariffs, will be more effective than microeconomic interventions like industrial policy that generally rely on the government to pick winners and losers. Yep. This is he's writing in The Economist, and this is like a gigantic dragging his nuts across the forehead of PhD economists saying, do the macroeconomic stuff because the microeconomic interventions are bullshit. That is not what they want to hear. The PhD economists are screaming when they see something like this. These interventions must be well telegraphed in the form of forward guidance to provide negotiating leverage and time for markets to adjust. So now think about Trump signaling. Trump has been like, tariffs for everyone. You're getting tariffed. You're getting tariffed. You're all getting tariffed. If you want to play ball with us, then maybe we won't tariff you. But if you're not going to play ball with us, you're getting tariffed too. Europe, you're getting tariffs. He's been completely upfront about this from the get-go. Because essentially what's happened is the United States is the hub of the global economy. And we've been completely hollowed out and created all of these imbalances where these other countries have been artificially inflated through our artificial deflation, not deflation in currency terms. I'm talking like
deracination.
Yeah. We get hollowed out. They get artificially filled up. And this can't sustain itself any longer. We can't sustain it for the sake of our own national security. And when we begin trying to remediate it, the things that we do are going to have a drastic effect on everyone else. But we're going to have to do this, and it's going to have to be applied uniformly because, so essentially their vision for what they're creating is taking the United States, the U.S. market, and paywalling it to everyone. I think this is a really easy way to think about this. If you have something you want to sell, if you have like a really valuable area, then you want to paywall that. You want to restrict access to that area. You're putting like with the King Pill Discord, we put a high paywall on it because we want high quality people coming in. So we're gonna raise the barrier to entry, which increases the value of the community itself. Same thing happens on the national level.
You know what I would like? I don't know if this is possible or if people are already doing this. I just had this idea. I have not looked into this at all. But I think it'd be cool if local, like small and local towns could have like local tariffs that they can leverage against whoever the hell they want. So, we've got our nice little fun town here. Walmart wants to, bulldoze the field over there and put in a Walmart. It's like, yeah, we don't really want that. But I mean, if you pay us a lot, then maybe we'll talk.
Yeah, I wonder how that would work in relation, like how you would nest these within each other. Because like you're dealing with there's like fractals here.
Yeah.
So you've got the city government, then you've got the county government, you've got the state government, and I mean I think this is the direction that the world is moving. This is where we're moving in both there's not going to be an abandonment of globalization, but there's going to be moderated globalization with increased local optionality and increased flexibility to be able to like turn certain policies on and off at the local level because of how much stuff is going to be funneled through the digital world. Let's see. The United States also needs to tackle its own contribution to global imbalances by reducing its unprecedented budget deficits. Given that federal spending is both anomalously high and inefficient, whereas tax revenues are consistent with historical levels, spending cuts are the appropriate mechanism. There's DOGE. So this is not just a problem that, like, this isn't the imbalances he's describing are both imbalances on the behalf of the foreign nations and imbalances on behalf of the U.S. And we have to balance all of these out. Now, there's so many moving parts in all of this that there's no way, even with some of the most brilliant and capable and wise people at the helm overseeing a sort of reset like this, there's no way to do it without causing you, because of, like, when you've got things leveraged out to the hilt the way they are now, and there's so many imbalances and so much malinvestment that has to get flushed out of the system.
Yep.
You can you move something a tiny bit over here and it causes an avalanche over here, and you have to balance all of these things out. Additionally, the United States must link its security and economic relations more closely. Security allies are much more likely to have economies with which trade will benefit America's own welfare. American security assurances and market access should be linked with commitments from allies to spend more on our collective security and to structure their economies in ways that reduce imbalances over time. This is, reading between the lines here, this is American allies need to stop taking advantage of the United States. American security assurances and market access should be linked with commitments from allies to spend more on our collective security. You're going to pay to access the market. Again, we're talking about creating a walled garden. It's paywalled. If you want to access the American market from outside the American market, you're going to have to pay to do it.
Yeah,
Why?
The wealthiest market in the world.
Yes, because we can. Because there's it is madness to have the wealthiest market in the world with the deepest pockets, the most resources, and to just let everyone have at it for free. No, we're going to paywall this. We're going to create a walled garden. You have to pay to get in. There's a cover charge. If you pay to get in, then we're happy to be, you're in. We're happy to work with you. But this also is going to be happening at the time where everybody else's walled gardens are going to be looking less and less attractive. And he's framing it here as this is we must link our security and economic relations. We can't be selling out our national security to make GDP go up. Such a linked system of security and economic alliances should be dynamic to incentivize behavior that aligns with American interests.
I think if we did, I think GDP would still go up.
Yes.
I don't think it has to be an either or.
Right.
If we bring all manufacturing back to America, how does that not increase GDP?
Right. But the biggest obstacle to this is people who are at war with the notion that there's anything special about America.
Yeah, right.
And this is where a revival in national patriotism goes a long ways. Suddenly people see America as something valuable. And these ideas go together. America's valuable, so you should have to pay to get access to this market. We have the most valuable market. If you want access to it, we're not going to give it away to you for free. So you can, and then let you just do whatever you want in your own domestic policy. So you have your own nicely curated, managed economy designed to just siphon value away from us. And then you get artificially boosted in this unsustainable way. And meanwhile, we've had our foundation hollowed out from underneath us. So when shit starts going sideways for you, we're not even going to have the capacity to step in and help you out.
Yeah, it's been a great grift for China.
Yeah. Such a linked system of security and economic alliances should be dynamic to incentivize behavior that aligns with American interests. Countries could move closer to or further from the center of this system of relationships based on their revealed preferences. Clearer segmentation of the international economy would provide more effective levers to confront the underlying sources of imbalances than the currently dominant bilateral approach. He's constantly criticizing this bilateral approach. And he's like, no, not a bilateral approach. We need to have a multilateral approach. This is back to the multipolar order that many have envisioned. Additionally, the cost to remaining outside the perimeter would be high. Without access to U.S. markets, Chinese overcapacity would instead threaten the viability of other countries' domestic output. And would-be hegemons outside the U.S.-led zone are unlikely to prove as benevolent as the United States in the post-war era. The current global economic system is in an unsustainable disequilibrium. Western middle and working class populations are growing increasingly wary of globalization. The only way to preserve the benefits of the international trading system is to question some of its mistaken assumptions and update them for the current moment. And then another quick piece here that he wrote. There's a link to it here in this Darren Beatty tweet. If you guys want to go find it later on, you can find it in the show notes on King Pilled, Substack, or the podcatchers. Scott Bessent, let's talk tariffs. It's time to revitalize Alexander Hamilton's favorite tool. Tariffs have a long and storied history as both a revenue-raising tool and a way of protecting strategically important industries in our country. For months,
Good. It's almost like tariffs are kind of like come on, brain. I need some rogue. I need some rogue in me. Get my brain firing.
Mhm.
It's like guilds, but like on a national level.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So from the Fox News post here, he says, for months, economic commentators parroted the Harris campaign's misleading talking point that tariffs are like a sales tax, or a sales tax. Like much of economists' conventional wisdom, this view is fundamentally incorrect. The reflexive opposition to tariffs represents political ideology and advocacy, not considered economic thought. Notice he, like much of economists' conventional wisdom, this view is fundamentally incorrect. This dude's not a fan of economists.
Yeah.
The truth is that tariffs have a long and storied history as both a revenue-raising tool and a way of protecting strategically important industries in the U.S. President-elect Trump has added a third leg to the stool, tariffs as a negotiating tool with our trading partners. Prior to the 16th Amendment, which authorized the individual income tax, tariffs had been one of the federal government's chief sources of funding. Our first Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton, also happened to be America's original proponent of tariffs. But after World War II, a consensus coalesced around multilateral tariff disarmament. Something happened after World War II. Interesting. A consensus. You might call it a post-war consensus, perhaps? The promise of this new free trade consensus was that any economic dislocations caused by globalization would be offset by increased prosperity for all. In the U.S. especially, this conviction was accompanied by a faith that free trade would lead to political freedom in other countries, such as communist China. Neither of these predictions has proven to be correct. The U.S. opened its markets to the world, but China's resulting economic growth has only cemented the hold of a despotic regime. In the interim, we've hollowed out our manufacturing base, leaving a trail of devastation through swaths of our country's heartland. We've also created key national security vulnerabilities. The truth is that other countries have taken advantage of the U.S.'s openness for far too long because we allowed them to. Tariffs are a means to finally stand up for Americans. Tariffs are also a useful tool for achieving the president's foreign policy objectives. Whether it is getting allies to spend more on their own defense, opening foreign markets to U.S. exports, securing cooperation on ending illegal immigration and interdicting fentanyl trafficking, or deterring military aggression, tariffs can play a central role. Lastly, tariffs can raise significant revenue. Last year, we imported some $3.1 trillion in goods. We are the largest importer in the world and thus the single most important market for other countries' exports. Our size gives us market power and the ability to dictate terms. Other countries need us more than we need them. We have but to use that power. Critics of tariffs argue that they will increase the prices Americans pay for imported goods. This, reduced to absurdity, was the Harris campaign's sales tax argument. But the facts argue against this. President Trump's first-term tariffs did not raise the prices of the affected goods, despite predictions back then that the tariffs would prove inflationary. Indeed, not only was there no discernible rise in inflation during the last round of tariffs, but the Fed's preferred measure of inflation actually declined. Used strategically, tariffs can increase revenue to the Treasury, encourage businesses to restore production, and reduce our reliance on industrial production from strategic rivals. For too long, the conventional wisdom has rejected the use of tariffs as a tool of both economic and foreign policy. However, like Alexander Hamilton, we should not be afraid to use the power of tariffs to improve the livelihoods of American families and businesses. So this is coming from the incoming Treasury Secretary. Now think about the significance of having a Treasury Secretary thinking as an American sovereigntist, as an America firster, and pairing that with a Fed chair who thinks the same way. This is a point that Tom Luongo has made a number of times recently, and I'm going to echo it here, that we haven't seen this in really ever within the modern era, having the Fed chair and the Treasury Secretary both working cooperatively together for the good of the United States. We've mostly had the inverse of that, where they're not working cooperatively together, or they're at odds with one another, or they're in cahoots with one another, but they're doing it to gut out the United States. Now this is a sort of a strange, multifaceted calculation here that I've been trying to wrap my mind around since the first time I heard Luke Gromen mention it on an interview a couple of weeks ago. But the long and short of this is that in order to make the DOGE let me back up. Let me put it this way. The DOGE effort, slashing government spending dramatically, actually, if not undertaken smartly, will actually completely blow out the deficit. Because if you're well, let me read what he's saying here, and then we'll elaborate on it a little bit. So Luke Groman here says, why DOGE doing what Milei did in Argentina and the U.S. will not lead to a decline in U.S. deficit or GDP, but a catastrophic blowout in U.S. deficit to GDP. Unless U.S. debt to GDP, or the U.S. dollar, is significantly devalued first. Because U.S. receipts follow stocks and deficits rise fast with rates at 125% of GDP. So here's why that line of thinking will not only be wrong, but catastrophically wrong. So one, foreigners were not short 13 trillion in peso denominated debt. They are short 13 trillion of USD denominated debt. Two, foreigners were not long 57 trillion in peso denominated assets, including 8.5 trillion in Argentine government bonds. Foreigners are long 57 trillion in USD denominated assets, including 8.5 trillion in US treasuries. Thanks to points 1 and 2 above, when the Argentine peso strengthened as a result of Milei's austerity, foreigners did not sell peso-denominated stocks and bonds. Foreigners will sell USD assets and US treasuries aggressively if the US implements Milei-like austerity, sending US stock prices down and US treasury yields up, paradoxically leading to a blowout in the US fiscal deficit as a result of austerity. So basically what he's saying is needs to happen is the DOGE effort, slashing all of this spending, needs to be undertaken in cooperation with a targeted measure to weaken the dollar. Because if you slash the U.S. government budget and it massively strengthens the dollar, that strengthening effect is going to cause people. It's going to be so much harder on everybody else that people are going to go tumbling. They're going to sell off all of these American assets to get those dollars that are getting a lot stronger to pay off their own local economic woes. And so this will actually make the deficit much, much worse because it'll drive interest rates up. So they're going to have to bring interest rates down. And so paradoxically, I think this is why Trump wanted the debt ceiling removed, because the only way to make this work in the short term is going to be you have to get the regulatory hurdles and all of the managerial bureaucracy, all this extra spending, wasteful spending, has to be eliminated ASAP. But they can't risk strengthening the dollar too much because it will increase the debt burden and the deficit way too quickly. So they have to weaken the dollar while also slashing all of the spending, which means they need to lower interest rates and probably print money. He says, if we want to cut entitlements plus defense to reduce the deficit to GDP, only to end up with a higher deficit to GDP by the end of 2025 as stocks fall hard and rates spike on a strong USD, then we should do what Milei did in Argentina before devaluing the US dollar. US receipts fall when rates rise. US outlays rise non-linearly when rates rise with $36 trillion in debt. And US receipts fall when stocks fall. The US government allowed this system to evolve. Now they're getting the system they wanted good and hard. If I wanted to ensure that the US deficit to GDP was a multiple of where it is today in 12 months' time, I'd slash government spending before devaluing US debt to GDP, the US dollar. If I wanted to position the US fiscal position for growth, I'd devalue the debt to GDP first, the US dollar, then DOGE. Now, related to this is, I've got some quotes from Michael Saylor. The first one, speaking directly to the last one.
And the first nation to print money, the first nation to print their own currency to buy Bitcoin wins. Right? Like, Tom, look what MicroStrategy did. We basically issue our own currency, our stock, and we buy Bitcoin. What happened? We went from $1 billion to $100 billion market cap is what happened. Is it inflation? It's only inflation if you print the currency to invest, to make a bad investment, right? if you print the currency to buy something that's appreciating faster than your inflation rate, it's actually accretion. And the first nation to print.
Isn't that an interesting thought? So what MicroStrategy's been doing is essentially printing money to buy Bitcoin, either by issuing stock at the market, or doing the convertible bonds, where people are lending them money and they're taking the money and immediately going and buying Bitcoin with it. It's having an accretive effect because of the nature of Bitcoin as the underlying asset, which means, like, honestly, right now, one of the best things that the U.S. government could do, given the thing that I was just delineating before, is they need to print money. They need to reduce interest rates and print money to weaken the dollar so that all of the spending slashing doesn't massively blow out the dollar parity with respect to everything else, and actually increase the deficit. So this is the direction that I'm hearing lots of rumblings go. Now, it's not as simple as just go print all this money explicitly just to buy BTC directly, because the making a move like that, you also don't want to completely crater the global faith in the dollar. So, like, if Trump came out and said, we're going to print $5 trillion and buy $5 trillion of the Bitcoin, like, you would utterly destroy the faith in the dollar. So they have to do this very cleverly. But I think this has been sort of ruminating for me that the Trump administration is basically locked into needing to reduce interest rates and print money. And maybe not print money directly, but they need to really increase spending to try to maintain the weaker dollar. And the question is, what are they going to spend that on? And I can already see all of the libertarian-minded people who spaz out and say, "Oh, they're breaking everything." But no, like, this is the route that has to be taken.
Yeah. You could spend a bunch of money on infrastructure.
And I think that's
a great place to dump it.
Yeah, right. That's one of the things. But then at the same time, you need to have all of the regulatory burden removed so that all of that money being spent on infrastructure isn't just getting siphoned into boondoggles.
Well, most of it is probably, at least at first, is going to be going to boondoggles. But that's if like, okay, stage one is we gotta, lower rates, print a bunch of money, QE, do a bunch of funky business for the reasons you just laid out. Then whether or not it's going to boondoggles, I don't know if that really matters. The point is, you want to, like, you're fucking with these numbers and you want to keep a certain ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're probably burning a whole bunch of money that's going into malinvestment right now, but if that's what you need to do now so that you can then actually deal with the problem in step 2, and then step 3, actually get to building real shit.
Mm-hmm.
That might just be what you have to do.
Yeah, and I think this is part of why the first 6 to 9 months probably of 2025 is going to be incredibly volatile.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be doing all of these things all at the same time. And they don't really have, there is no, our backs are up against the wall. There is no sort of easier way into all of this. You kind of have to do a bunch of drastic moves all at the same time, and everybody just needs to hold on for dear life. Yep. Because if you rip off all these Band-Aids in the right order, or close enough to in the right order, and get things set straight, and then you're now betting on you're betting on the American desire to produce, that American restless, optimistic spirit. And here is why. Right here, this is why the black pillars need to be locked in boxes and thrown off of a cliff. Because this is the spirit, the national spirit, and the optimism, the unflagging, indefatigable desire to just win constantly becomes a necessity in this environment. Without that, things get much, much worse. But I'm
it's your heritage, guys. Come on.
right. Like this, we're gonna win. Everything's going to get better. Things are going to suck for a little bit, but we're now entering a new period of American greatness. And whether or not you believe it, you need to believe it. Because the more you believe it, the more true it becomes. It's very evident to me that the team that Trump has assembled around him to take on this issue, they understand exactly what the problem is. They understand the significance of it, and they have the right solutions. But if his base is just going to freak out and get demoralized and scream and cry every single time he or they or any of them say or do anything that doesn't necessarily correspond to your preferred orthodoxies, then they're never going to get anywhere. Basically, we need to just let them cook. $5 from Samoa Bob. He says, so you're telling me that it may take one volatile year to fix the issues and problems caused from the last 60 plus years? Yes, essentially. Because if you can reverse the flows of dollars, so we're not just sending dollars everywhere else and being hollowed out. If you turn it around and everyone is sending their dollars back here, we've paywalled our country. So if you want to get into our country, you got to pay us to be here. And if you pay us to be here, you can be here. But you got to pay us. Then the depth of the American capital markets is, and the explosion in growth and prosperity that could be created by leveraging them properly is unfathomable. No one else no other geographic region in the world is capable of what the American markets are capable of if they're simply unleashed and allowed to go to work. That has to happen at the macro scale and at the micro scale. Individual people have to get to work. They're gonna, did I have a tweet on this? I thought that I had something related to this. So it was back on, I think this tweet right here. There was a guy who replied to Jason's tweet about the PayPal mafia.
Andrew says if you drop deficits, then inflation will fall through the floor. The Fed doesn't want deflation, so it will cut rates to avert falling prices.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see any way that they aren't cutting rates pretty aggressively in 2025. So to this guy here, Skilo's Rising, he says,
maybe I'll be able to buy a house finally.
Yeah, I mean, like this is like they're gonna want people to start buying houses. Like they want those mortgages, those car loans. They want that to kickstart and to people to start spending, to start heating things up. So Skilo's Rising says, so stoked that there's finally a bench of competence to draw from, but keeping them aligned will be hard, I bet. And Jason says, in the short term, no, their alignment will be almost radical because of the historical moment they all know they're involved in. Medium, 15 to 25 years, to long, 50 to 100 years term, then the alignment does get shakier, and I reckon will split up into a much more Yarvin patchwork style scenario. And Skilos Rising says, depends on the variable we're talking about, I think. You see generally libertarian tech workers is going hardline on tariffs and social issues, although the hardcore Christians may be hoping for more out of this vibe shift than they'll get. And Jason said there are no hardcore Christians in that group. There are a bunch of Zion Christians who think they'll get exactly what I think they want. And he says, I see we're not understanding each other. You're saying it will be hard to keep the tech guys aligned with right-wing goals to the extent that there even are shared ones, not with each other. And my response to that was, I think trying to, quote, keep the tech guys aligned with right-wing goals is just fundamentally the wrong way to look at it. They're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to do it extremely well. That will be a very good thing and a very bad thing. Our goal is to draft in their wake and get ourselves out of the blast radius. And I think this is the way to look at it. If you get word that Trump is approving some huge spending package, or that the Fed is going to be printing a bunch of money or something like that, I can already hear all of the Spurgs saying, oh, see, we're fucked. They don't care about the deficit. They don't care about the debt. They're just going to bankrupt us all, yada, 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 yada. But I'm calling it now. When this starts happening, this is the reason why. Because this is the only way to I don't know, balance all the different interests here and create some rocket fuel to make the country the country return to being an economic powerhouse that isn't just a bunch of fake fakes like services and shit like that. So I got a couple more quotes here from Saylor, because as I've been watching and listening to a bunch of these people advising Trump, it's very clear that Saylor is deeply involved with all of it. Eric Trump mentioned this last week that he's known Michael Saylor for 20 years. And and he's talking about how, I think I played the clip for you guys a week or two ago about how he said that that Bitcoin is a better investment than real estate. This is literally a Trump, the definition of real estate development, saying Bitcoin is a better investment than real estate. And so Saylor being very close to them, I think the moves that he makes and the things that he's saying are, there's things we can glean from that to tell us something about where the Trump administration's mind is, because he's clearly a highly valued advisor on this front. So let me speed this up a bit. So this is from the Bitcoin Therapist on Twitter. He says, anyone who thinks Michael Saylor is just some maniac who takes out debt to buy Bitcoin needs to watch this interview. This is one of the most sound and rational explanations for why Saylor is going so hard and fast into Bitcoin. Great listen.
Well, Scott, when in 2020, I was very frustrated and a bit depressed. I don't think I was alone. A lot of people were frustrated and depressed during that time period. And I was, my company was worth $600 million enterprise value, and I'd worked 30 years, and I could not break through against the Microsoft, juggernaut, and I couldn't figure out how to grow it. And after 10 years of trying, I figured maybe I should just retire and go gracefully off and just and call it a day. And I think, as I said, I discovered Bitcoin out of frustration and desperation. And first, it was just something to do. And then I realized it was a good technology. I went from, I'll buy it because I don't have a choice to do anything else, to I'm an investor. And I started thinking Bitcoin is like Facebook for money, or it's like a dominant digital monetary network. And I started becoming a tech believer in it. But then I emerged as a maximalist, Scott, which is, you wrote your book about the four. And at the end of the book, you basically are a little bit jaded. You're like, these guys got too much power and they abuse their power, and the world's not a better place for that. That's because they're companies. And if Bitcoin was a company, if it was a big digital banking network, it probably also gets corrupted. What I realize is Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. It's a commodity. It's ethically superior to a company. It's ethically superior to these big tech companies because it represents a protocol of economic empowerment for 8 billion people and everybody on earth, regardless of your views. And so I basically went from opportunist to investor to maximalist. And now I'm of the opinion that, the human race moves forward through clean energy, clean food, clean money. And human misery was our water was dirty, our food was dirty, we didn't have energy, we had dirty clothes, we had doctors with dirty hands and dirty instruments and the like, and we had dirty money. And for the last 500,000 years, all of our economics have been broken, and their human misery has taken place because copper tokens and giant stone coins and glass beads and silver coins and gold, none of these things were perfect capital assets. They were never a settlement network, and they were never a non-deflationary asset. Bitcoin represents clean money. It represents economic energy and economic empowerment. So my mission at this point is I would just like to spread it to 8 billion people. I actually think Bitcoin is hope. I think you can fix a company, fix a country, fix a family. It won't solve the other problems. It doesn't cure cancer, and it doesn't make you a good basketball player, and it doesn't resolve political differences and religious differences. I get that. What it does is it gives people a working economic fluid that doesn't drain 10% of their economic energy per year out the back door. And so I'm a big advocate for digital capital, in the same way that 150 years ago, maybe I could get really excited about spreading electricity to the world. But if you found fire, you would want people to know about fire. And Henry Ford, as I said, he put the fire in an engine and he gave us wings. He let us fly. And so the world's a better place with the automobile or the plane or aluminum or steel or computers or AI or whatever it is. I just think the world's a better place with digital capital or clean store of value money. you could say it's a fair and equitable way for us to settle our differences. And there's something nice about that.
Then this one here is funny. He's I've never seen someone who can just crank out analogies like he does. It's to the point where listening to him, if you go look at the comment sections of his interviews, he has his loyal band of followers who go listen to everything he produces. I'm among that. And it's just become like a spectator sport of how many different analogies can he come up with just off the top of his head. One of the clearest communicators on any subject that I've ever heard. But in this one here, he started getting a little annoyed with the interviewer, and it's funny.
If you don't have the homestead exemption and you're not a citizen, then that means you buy $10 million worth of property, you pay $200,000 of tax. Then they actually assess it up 15% a year. So that means that in 10 years, the property's valued at $30 million. You owe $600,000 in tax. In the next 5 years, you've lost all your money. Okay, but I thought Florida was low tax state, huh? I thought property was a good investment. Well, let's make it simpler. What if I make the tax rate 5% a year? What if I make it 50% a year? Like, what if, so the point really is all of these are simple rules of thumb that allow people to not think for themselves. You're on a ship, the ship is sinking, there's 10 boats in front of you. One of the boats doesn't have a hole in it. The other 9 boats have holes in them. You got 10 members in your family. Are you going to put one kid in each of the 9 boats or the like? Or are you going to put everybody in the boat that doesn't have the hole in it?
Okay, so you come to that level of conviction, which is intoxicating, by the way.
It's not conviction. It's not conviction. It's just rational thinking for yourself. Are you moving your entire family to Zimbabwe right now because, you have conviction? Or let me reverse it. Why is it that you don't move your entire family to Zimbabwe, sell all your stuff, and buy the Zimbabwe dollar? Why is it that you don't do that? Because of conviction, or just because it seems quite obvious to you that's not a good idea?
I won't say that conviction is when you don't do something, but when you go all in on something, I would say that does take conviction. Your conviction might
How
be
many
coming from
chairs
first
are you sitting on
principles.
right now?
1.
Are you all in on the chair?
I am all in on the chair.
Like the point really is you put on one pair of glasses, you've got one pair of AirPods right now. You're looking at me through one screen. You're using one microphone. That's one microphone. Like, you trust it? Is that conviction? Seems kind of scary. Why don't you diversify? Why don't you use 10 microphones? The point really is things in your life. Did you drive in 10?
This is an older interview with him and Tom Bilyeu. There's another one that I really recommend you guys go listen to that dropped, 4 or 5 days ago. And you could see the life draining out of Saylor because he would explain something and Bilyeu would be like, he'd be like, all right, well, let me see if I can make sense of that. And you could see Saylor's like, what the fuck do you mean make sense of that? I just explained it. Why do you need to make sense of it? And he would explain it worse. And Saylor would be like, all right, well, let me explain it this way. And then at the end of it, he'd be like, all right, so let me see if I can explain that. And Saylor's just like, by the end of it. But the great thing about it is that every single time Saylor explains it, he does it a different way. And he just pulls an analogy out of his head, and it actually works really, really well.
Don't you hate when you do that? When you try to explain something, and then somebody they're not getting it, and they're trying to correct you on the explanation you give, and then you try to explain it a different way. And I had a very similar experience to this yesterday with my wife, trying to explain the difference between the new calendar and the old calendar. And before I finally giving up and throwing my hands up, we're not getting anywhere. It's not that hard.
So an interesting little related thing that dropped. Brian Brooks, former acting comptroller of the currency under the Trump administration, has joined the MicroStrategy board of directors. As comptroller, he oversaw the federal banking system. I don't know exactly what's going to happen here, but I'm telling you guys now, you need to be paying very close attention. I mean, if you're interested, if you don't care, you don't have to, but you need to be paying very close attention to everything happening in the Bitcoin world, particularly surrounding MicroStrategy and the relationship to the Trump administration. Trump has surrounded himself with Bitcoin bulls. This is like, not just like this new administration isn't going to be hostile to Bitcoin or crypto or AI or whatever. Like, he's surrounded himself with absolute bulls. Might even say maxis. And they're taking it very seriously. It's I know a lot of people are still not caught up to the fact that Bitcoin is a real thing. Like, Bitcoin is a major player on the market now, but like, you need to get caught up quick. I'm not just saying as an investment. Again, I have very little money of my own in it because I have very little money. But I'm not just saying as an investment. Like, this is going to play a major role in turning the U.S. ship around. And I don't know exactly what it's going to be, because I think in a lot of ways, a lot of these people themselves don't necessarily know exactly how they need to go about it, but they've got a lot of pretty interesting ideas. And I think that, I don't know if it's going to come straight to just like printing money to buy Bitcoin, but I think it's going to be printing money to buy Bitcoin with some steps in between. All right, last couple of things here. Fascinating types of technology. When I tell you things haven't even begun getting weird yet, remember that they're using lasers to make talking orbs. Yes, they're using lasers to make talking orbs.
Pentagon scientists have finished testing on an early weapon that can make laser plasma balls talk.
Stop, or we will be forced to fire upon you.
It's called the laser-induced plasma effect, and it's made by the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate. So what they've done is basically created a laser that can shoot out to a certain distance, and they can pipe in sound waves through it, and actually make human voice sounds and commands.
Stop, or we will be forced to fire upon you.
Now, where this becomes useful is around an area where you want to keep a perimeter.
I love that they used Cleveland from Family Guy for this voice. I don't know why they did, but
secure. So essentially you can shoot out this laser, you can then talk to the people on the edge of the perimeter rather than sending troops out there and tell them to get away, or you're going to shoot, or get away, or they're going to use other means to deter them. And that same laser can be used to actually target the individual and create heat through pinpricks, like microscopic pinpricks in their skin, even beneath clothing. It's extremely uncomfortable and people move out of the way almost immediately. At the same time, the exact same laser is also being used as kind of a never-ending flashbang grenade. It can basically, with a power source, it can constantly create audible effects to deter and confuse and disorient people, just like a flashbang grenade that you would have in your kit, but would only be able to flash once, maybe twice, depending on the design. Now, it's still a few years away. They just finished testing to get the audio portion through the laser in a laboratory setting this year, but they expect to have a fieldable version within the next 5 years that troops could use to protect different areas or put on mobile platforms to disperse crowds or use it in a non-lethal way in theater.
Sweet. Isn't that cool? And then here's another really cool thing. Gravity energy storage. This is from Brian Romelli. Never heard of such a thing, but this is fascinating.
Unbelievable. The inventor of gravity.
Oh, I forgot this had this guy. I hate this voice. I don't know if this is a legitimately completely digital voice or if it used some sort of a voice model originally. If there is some guy out there who has this voice, if I meet him one day, I am going to bludgeon his face into the concrete because I cannot stand his voice.
Unbelievable. The inventor of gravity energy storage is truly a genius. In Albedo Castillo, Switzerland, the Swiss company Energy Vault has constructed a gravity storage tower 75 meters tall with 3 arms, each 66 meters long. Each concrete counterweight block weighs 35 tons. The system generates electricity by releasing these heavy blocks from a height. During times of surplus electricity, multiple cranes stack the blocks into a tall tower. And when there's high demand for power, the blocks are lowered, converting gravitational potential energy into electrical energy. Unlike traditional pumped hydro storage, gravity energy storage isn't limited by geographical location, though there is a risk of collapse during extreme weather. Fortunately, there are many abandoned mines worldwide that can serve as safe sites for gravity energy storage. Alternatively, a multi-layered rack system can be built to achieve the same effect. This gravity energy storage solution is both environmentally friendly and cost-effective. Do you think it has potential?
Isn't that cool? This is actually relatedly something similar to what to how Bitcoin mining can be used to balance a grid. Because there's something like, I think it's like 30% of all electricity that's generated just gets like shot off into the ground. There's nothing happening with it. And so these guys put these Bitcoin mining rigs there and just take all this extra electricity instead of it just being fired off into the ground, it actually gets monetized. And then they can balance the grid by up regulating or down regulating their the mining capacity based on other strains on the grid. There's so many. This is a very, very simple version of this is why like Bitcoin as a technology is more interesting to me probably than Bitcoin as an investment, even though Bitcoin as an investment is obviously probably like the best investment of all time. But there's so much waste that we're putting off that can be monetized through Bitcoin and funneled back into the system, that it's insane that we're struggling along, and as infrastructure poor as we are, there's no reason for it whatsoever. It's literally just a matter of getting people out of the way and getting smart, creative, innovative people on the job of starting to figure out how to solve these problems. So in case you guys can't tell, I am very, very white-pilled. All right, and we're going to end this one with a banger. Are you ready for a banger, Cooper?
Devin Stack posting a banger?
Devin Stack posting a banger.
Is he on his redemption arc, or is he still?
Oh, this is from May 30th.
Oh, okay.
But Devin Stack did post a banger. No! Stop it! Ah! Why?
I still believe in your eyes. There's no choice. I belong to your life, because I will live to love you someday. You'll be my baby, and we'll fly away, and I'll fly with you.
Banger! Absolute banger. All right, that's all I got for you guys. You got any last words for the people, Cooper? All right, hit the like button, ladies and folks. Ladies and folks. Ladies and gents. Hit the like button. And I'll be back tomorrow with another episode.
Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas. It is the season. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday to Grandma King Pilled. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Oinks in the chat. And I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania